Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Vimoh Live. Today's episode is going to be slightly different because I don't feel like talking today, so I'll just be reading comments from you guys in the live chat. We used to do this a long time ago, back when I used to do the live stream on Instagram. All I did was read comments. So let's get back to the ancient traditions of me today. Before I proceed, as usual, I've forgotten the banner. Yes, there it is. This show happens on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. on YouTube, and later on, an audio version is made available on audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and GeoSavan, etc. And if you're listening to this later on as audio, hello, hi, whatever app you're listening on, please leave a rating or a review. And if you are here right now in the chat, hello. And if anyone has come here to talk with me, I'm sorry, but today that is not happening. There are personal reasons behind it. I don't feel like talking, but I figured it's Wednesday 8 p.m. I'll still come online and will I'll read comments. So whatever you had to say on screen, feel free to type it in the chat and I'll read it. And whatever answer I can give, I will give. These will be short answers, and today's live stream is likely to be shorter also. It's probably going to be a little over 30 to 45 minutes. It's not going to be 1 hour or 2 hours. It's like it's me, it's not you, it's me. Let's just put it that way. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button. And you can also support the channel on Patreon at patreon.com/vimo. And you can also make a one-time contribution on my blog at vimo.stck.me. There is a support button there. You can go click it and you can make a contribution of any amount of your choice. Small, big, doesn't matter. Whatever you pay will go into helping me buy books, software, and paying my bills so that I can continue doing what I do. This last week, I have been obsessed with artificial intelligence and especially ways of using it in my creative process. So it's been quite exciting and quite unnerving at the same time. So, yeah, we'll talk about all that. In the meantime, feel free to leave comments. Megha Kedia, thank you for the 40 rupees super chat. And you're asking how to get on a call. Megha, I'll make it up to you the next time I take calls. Whenever you are in the queue, I'll prioritize you. You'll become the first person to get taken, no matter how many people are there. This happened last week also. I believe Sindhu BS had come and made a super chat. She waited for some time, but before I could get to her, she had to go. So I think going forward, if someone pay, this is not because of capitalist interests, I promise you, but I feel bad when someone pays money and wants to talk and they can't because there are like 9 people in the queue. So from now on, जो पैसे देगा उसको पहले लेने की कोशिश करूंगा, unless it's someone who's like, who's been on every episode till now. So if it's a one time caller and they pay money, I'll prioritize them. Otherwise I feel like shit. Like I last time I felt quite bad. Dynamo is explaining to her today Vimo is not taking calls, but he usually does. Come back on Saturday. Yes. Yes. Sameep Science, hello. Dynamo, hello. Samarth, hello. Vinod Vishwambharan, Barnali Adhikari, hello, hello everyone. Sameep says this kind of podcast is more enjoyable when listening at later point of view. However, face to face is more fun listening to live. Just my opinion. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember doing this on Instagram a couple of years ago, and people used to say that they listened to the entire recording after the live stream was over. So I could never understand what joy there is. But since then, I have been listening to a lot of podcasts. These days, when I wake up and I'm doing my morning walk, I listen to podcasts, and it's quite a lot of fun. Like if I'm obsessing over something in the evening, today morning, for example, I was comparing web comics websites, and I looked up podcast episodes about web comics and about how how the economy of web comics is evolving. It was quite a lot of fun. 1 hour of listening to just about that. So, podcast listening time is a great time to just zero in on a single topic and get a wide variety of topics. I've been also listening to a lot of podcasts about AI, their increasing role in creativity, as well as other areas which are bound to get affected by it. It's a fascinating topic. And as I already mentioned, quite unnerving. Diamond says, should humans focus more on collectivism or individualism or both? I'm of the opinion that we should focus more on collectivism, but the collectivism has to be directed in human collectivism. If it becomes a parochial collectivism, like Hindu collectivism or Muslim collectivism or Christian collectivism, then it serves no purpose and it's just going to make matters worse. And individualism will also suffer because of it. Because when there is a parochial collectivism, like one religion, one nation says unity and it's all everything, I would rather people focus on unity from the perspective of you know uh, humanity itself. People should be united. People from a certain sect uniting is just tribalism, because then you're not like a religious people. You all have heard, right? People come on this live stream and say that religions have a uniting influence on people. Yeah, they do. But the point is that the purpose of religion seems to become, this is us and that's them over there. So it becomes a tool to describe. My friend Naveen pointed it out a few years ago. He said it becomes a way to define in groups and out groups. So that kind of collectivism is toxic. But if collectivism genuinely focused at the upliftment of humanity in general, that's great. Shailesh, hello. Random dude, hello. I'm just going to ignore the hellos, guys. Just leave your comments or questions in the chat. Hello, hello. कितना बोलेंगे? Mother is Ape is here. Harish, Rain. Mother is Ape says diamond armor only focus on logic. What does it mean? Yeah, Shailesh is asking what is spirituality. Shailesh, if you ever find out the answer to that question, please let me know, because I have no idea. Every person we speak to has a different definition of spirituality. There are religious people who say, there are spiritual people, self declared spiritual people, who say they're not religious. There are religious people who say that their religion is all about spirituality. There are religious people who are who will reject spirituality of one kind and adopt spirituality of another kind. The range of options is incredibly large. So I don't know what the definition of spirituality is. When I was in the last stages of my own belief life as a believer, I used to describe spirituality as the quest for meaning. So picking up a dictionary to find out the meaning of a word is also spirituality. But I suppose when people talk about spirituality, they mean meaning as in why are we here kind of meaning. But again, that also is subjective. A lot of people will have different definitions of spirituality. Uh, Random dude says, what does it really mean to be human and who decides which life is more important? What does it really mean to be human? I Again, this is also a question which, if you ask five people, you'll get five answers. So I'll just give you my answer and hope that suffices. I think the word human is a label we have invented to describe something very temporal. We are using the word human to describe this life form as it exists right now, right? So, will we call our evolutionary ancestors human? To a certain extent, yes, but beyond a point, no, we will not call them human. So by the same logic, if evolution continues, there might come a time when what our descendants become can no longer be described as human. And I'm not only talking about technologically इतने advanced हो जाएंगे कि कुछ और देवता बन जाएंगे. Maybe we will turn into a animal, a creature with much less cranial capacity, furry bodies, because ice age comes and all our intelligence is not sufficient to save us, and then we mutate into something else. And at that point, perhaps this label of human will no longer be sufficient to describe us. So I think of human as a very temporary label that is being applied to this kind of animal right now in geological time. That's all. That's what I mean by that. Vinod says, do we need to have purpose in life? Like Javed Akhtar in the debate said, we don't question the purpose of cockroach or mosquito or, as a matter of fact, of any being. Yeah, that's true. I think the quest for purpose is kind of driven by human ego. Why should you have purpose? If the cockroach does not have purpose, then why should you have purpose? The reason human beings think that something like purpose exists is because they cannot come to terms with the fact that Much of the universe, most of the universe, for all we know, all of the universe is purposeless. We're just here. And we have created certain packages of meaning which we assign to ourselves and to each other. And we say that that is our purpose, right? And these packages of meaning often take the shape of religions, but they can also be other things like philosophies or adherence to a certain football club or following a certain teacher or guru or celebrity, right? So purpose is something that is a human being does not want to think that there is no purpose. So the human being starts to think that there must be purpose. And after that has been established कि purpose होगा ही होगा, ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता कि purpose नहीं है. After that assumption has been made, they start going around looking for it. They go from this religion to that religion, from this guru to that guru, looking for purpose. When the truth is perhaps much more mundane. There is no purpose. If you want purpose, make some. If you don't want to make some, here are all the available options. Choose one and live your life according to it. That's it. Uh, Dynamo says, Vimo, I used to Bing, but I don't think it's good enough yet to scale up to massive scales. I think the regular person would still be using Google for quite some time. That is true, but I think you may be underestimating the speed at which these things are growing. I got access to Bing last week, and they have like put some kind of a timer on it, so that decent decently long conversations can't be had with it. Which of course they did for good reasons. It was turning into a nightmarish chatbot, but last week, नहीं 5-6 दिन पहले I was using Bing to get some name suggestions for a project, and it gave me a good number of names. But every time it'll be like 5 to 6 pieces of conversation. It'll tell me, "I'm sorry, I can't continue this conversation," and I'll have to restart the conversation. It wasn't even going into any dangerous territory or problematic territory. It was just Bing saying, "Hey, this word goes nicely with that word," and I was saying, "Yeah, but can you turn that around and give me something else with this word added?" And it was doing that. उसके बीच में like you're in a full flow of brainstorming with a machine and the machine says नहीं मुझे अभी जाना है मैं जा रही हूँ मेरी मम्मी ने 8 बजे घर लौटने को बोला था. So yeah, I do think Google is not going out of the picture anytime soon, but don't say that I don't think it is wise to say that Bing is not going to catch up on the basis of the fact that Bing is a certain way right now. It's growing quite fast. Bing, Chat GPT, all of this. Sameep says Vimo is not a saint, guys. Hardly. Vimo is not a saint, man. He's a live streamer, and please don't look for purpose here. Diamond Amar says so. Collectivism without antagonism that allows individuality to prosper while also striving towards an inclusive, progressive society. Collectivism without antagonism that allows individual prosperity while also striving towards an inclusive progress. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose that's a good way of putting it. Dumb Kid says, Vimo, please share this stream लैब लिंक बहुत सी चीज़ें हैं बात करने की. डम किड आज बात नहीं कर रहा. टुडे आई एम जस्ट लुकिंग एट कमेंट्स एंड ट्राइंग टू आंसर देम. कम बैक ऑन सैटरडे वी विल टॉक. आई my you all know that my best friend passed away because of COVID a couple of years ago. Today is his birthday, and I have not been able to keep my mind off him. And even if I talk to people, I'll continue to get distracted, and I think that will be disrespectful. So today I'm not talking to people. I'm just reading comments, and it's not even going to be a very long stream. Don't worry about it. It's a filler episode. Let's just put a filler episode of the podcast, guys. Karthik says, does life have any inherent meaning? Are we just giving meaning to it? I don't think it has any inherent meaning. We are the ones who give meaning to it. Shailesh says, why people talk about Atma Paramatma if they not know about that? Because it is very hard to not know. We are curious beings. We want answers. When we come upon a situation where the answer is not apparent to us, we make up an answer. It's like babies. You ask a baby if it has seen a snake, the baby will want to appear as if it has seen a snake and it'll say, yeah. And then you ask the baby, how many hands did the snake have? It'll say 10 hands because that's as much as the baby can count. Right? So, बड़े होने के बाद भी हमारे अंदर से ये टेंडेंसी जाती नहीं है. The scientific endeavor is based on uh, honesty as far as possible, which is that if you don't know something, say that you don't know, because only by accepting that you don't know will you be in a position to find out the answer. If you don't know and you convince yourself that you do know, then you will not look for the real answer, right? Samarth says, I have always read about Kalinga War through perspective of Mauryan Empire. I want to know if there are any writings about Kalinga War from Kalinga's perspective in Odia, like folk tales, plays, etc. There must be, although I can't say I have been exposed to them to a great degree. What I can say is that the reason Kalinga did not fall under the Mauryan Empire until Ashok is because most of Ashok's ancestors decided to leave it alone. And that was probably because of the fact that Kalinga state chota sa tha, area chota sa tha, but it was a maritime empire that stretched across the eastern seas to Java, Bali, Sumatra, Indonesia, उस region में. So it was almost like Kalinga was the tip of another empire that was a maritime empire. So there must be books about it. I'm sure there must be, but I'm sorry to say I have not been exposed to them, so I cannot comment on it. Dynamo is talking to uh, Sameep. Harish says, don't you think atheism should only be pure atheism? Why do we have agnostic atheist, agnostic non-theist, Hindu atheist, etc., etc.? Aren't we again creating sects within a larger belief? First of all, atheism is not a belief; it's a lack of belief in God or gods or something equivalent to gods. Uh, the reason we have agnostic atheism is because philosophically it's an honest position. Do we know that there is no God? No, we don't. And that's the agnostic part. We do not know if God exists. The atheism part follows from it. We do not know that God exists. Therefore, we cannot believe that God exists, because if you don't know something, why would you believe that that thing exists? Why would you believe a claim without any evidence? As for the rest of it, uh, agnostic is just a word that goes before atheist. I don't know. Agnostic only means you don't know, right? It has no position on belief. Belief is either theist or atheist. So agnostic atheist means atheist, but this is why, right? It's an explanation. It's kind of like an adjective. As for Hindu atheist, it's a nonsense label. I personally have had too much fun making fun of it. It means nothing. Uh, Rain says, hi Vimoh, can you debunk the fine tuning argument thrown by creationists? I have done a video about it on my main channel. It's called Fine Tuning. Indian Atheist debunks fine tuning argument without mathematics. Go to youtube.com/Vimoh or /at Vimoh and find that video, and you will have your answer. It's a longish video, so I don't want to go into the details of it. Dynamo says, Harish, somebody who calls himself to be an agnostic will never find himself in a sect. Karthik says, what's your take on declining fertility rate? There are also things like child-free movement and antinatalism. Please talk about this. Karthik, we talked about this last week. Declining fertility rate might be a good thing for our population. I mean, the population will not be growing as fast. However, I personally am also of the opinion that a lot of our problems are not because of population, they're because of capitalism, because there is sufficient resources on earth for everyone. It's just that those resources have not been adequately distributed. कुछ लोगों के पास बहुत ज़्यादा है, कुछ लोगों के पास कुछ नहीं है. आराम से अच्छे से डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा तो सबके लिए काफ़ी रिसोर्सेज हैं. फर्टिलिटी रेट डिक्लाइनिंग के ऊपर ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ व्हाट डेटा यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस, आई डोंट नो. चाइल्ड फ्री मूवमेंट is like people choosing not to have children. They're within their rights, right? Antinatalism is one step ahead from child free movement, where people say I don't want to have kids, and also nobody should have kids. So that's a step too far in my opinion, because you can decide not to have children, but you can't decide on other people's behalf whether they should have whether they should have children or not. Harish says, Samarth, agreed, I used a wrong word. My point is atheism should be pure. I don't want to be the guy who tells people how they should be. Do you understand my point? My point is, I'm an atheist. I'm here telling people I'm an atheist, why I'm an atheist. And if someone has good reasons for believing in the things that they believe in, I want to talk to them. I don't want to be the guy who says everyone should be atheist and atheism has some kind of purity. I it's a steep slope. It's a slippery, steep slope there, and there is, I don't think there is any benefit in going down that. People are not ones and zeros. You can't live life in a binary fashion. You're going to meet all kinds of people in life. And if my goal personally, like the reason I do this content, these live streams, is because I want to talk to people and understand where they're coming from. And if someone has a slightly nuanced position on it, I can't be the dick who says, no, you are either on this side or that side. There are there are areas where I would take such a position. Like if someone was saying genocide is good, I would say no, genocide is bad. And if you think it is not, if there is even a hint or doubt in your mind that genocide is good, you're on that side and I don't want to talk about it, right? But on most belief related topics, it's okay to have a little bit of gray area. You can talk to people. That is how you go from gray to, you can't go from white to black. You have to go through the gray area. I hope that made sense. uh Lunatic says, how can I debunk so-called science in Vedas? Depends on the claim. Which claim are you talking about? Like people who say that there is science in the Vedas make a lot of claims. Bring one claim and we can dissect it. Diamond says, my view on life and existence is nihilistic absurdism, not in a negative manner, but funny and absurd. Okay. Whatever suits you, man. You do you. Sameep says, are you vegan or vegetarian by any chance? Just curious. No, Sameep, I'm not. I have stopped eating meat for a couple of years, mostly because my body doesn't agree with it much anymore. But I still consume milk and eggs and very rarely fish. So, yeah, that's where I am. Saurav says, what is your take on Acharya Prashant? I have no take on Acharya Prashant. I wish Acharya Prashant fans will stop asking me this. Dynamo says, I just think, Vimoh, that till the time Bing becomes good enough, not saying that Bing is technologically weak, but it isn't programmed for the mass use as of now because of less data. Maybe. Who's to know? Bateman asks, Batman or Superman? Superman. Dynamo Coder says, and when will it be good enough? When it will be good enough, Google will come up with its own model, which it already has. Okay. Uh, Saurav says, why people get defensive on logical points on religion when someone shows it to them? Defensive on logical points. I don't know what you mean. Defensive on behalf of religion or defensive on behalf of the position that says that religion is wrong? Please clarify. Dynamo Coder says, I'm just talking about the people who say that Bing will become major search engine. It may. I'm saying uh, there's a if you search for League of Legends and no king rules forever, you'll find a video where no king rules forever becomes a thing. And I don't think, like when Google became huge, companies like IBM, which were thought to be uh, such giants that they could not failed. They failed to keep up with the pace of technology. It is entirely possible that Google will fail on some level at something at some point of time. So we should not put that out of the picture. Wait, I forgot to thank Mohit Sankamble for becoming a member. Mohit, many thanks for becoming a member. People, be like Mohit. Click the join button below and become a member of this channel. Your support will be incredibly well appreciated by me or con. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Raj says, is Javed Akhtar the Richard Dawkins of India? It's not the intellectual depth, but about popularity. I like the fact that he's a poet that also sheds the image of atheist being emotionless. Yes, I like that. I like that one of the most well recognized faces of atheism in India is a poet and an artist. I like that. But I don't think he's the Richard Dawkins of India. I mean, intellectual depth hai unme, but it's not the kind of intellectual depth that Richard Dawkins has. Richard Dawkins is a scientist. He's an ethologist and he's, you know, done a lot of actual science in his life. So उस रेस्पेक्ट में तो कंपेयर नहीं कर रहा मैं, बट जावेद अख्तर से इंटेलिजेंस इज ऑफ अनदर वेराइटी. मनीष says 41 people watching. भाई लाइक ठोको. हाँ, जिसने भी लाइक नहीं ठोका ठोक लो. मुझे लाइक यहाँ से दिखते नहीं है, पर ठोक लो. Saurav says, I feel atheism is not a belief, it's a conclusion. Atheism is lack of belief. It's not a belief, it is lack of belief. If you bring a box and you say, I have a laddu in this box, and I say, I lack belief in your claim that there is a laddu in that box, I am I lack belief in your claim. That is what atheism is with respect to the claim that God or gods exist. That's it. It is not a conclusion, it is a rejection of a claim. Ankit says Jupiter and Venus were looking amazing together. What? Where? Hmm. Dynamo says Javed Akhtar isn't compelling enough as an argument maker. I don't find him to be. Yeah, but most people who leave religion for emotional reasons. Most people who join religion for emotional reasons. It's it's almost never about arguments. Like I can sit here and give arguments against religion for years, and maybe it will turn a few people's minds, but that will also be because of emotional reasons, because they found a community which where they can speak freely. So if you want more people to become rational, use arguments obviously, but don't rely on arguments too much, because at the end of the day, this entire game is about emotions. And I think the reason religion wins, the religion spreads so much, is because it feeds on emotion. And to a certain extent, atheism also needs to feed on emotion. And I've said this before also. Diamond says, are nation states a necessary evil or some other concept can replace it? I don't think they're necessary. I do think there are significant downsides to them, and I hope that there are concepts that can replace them, like federations, local units governing themselves through democratic means, and federations composed of such local units. Nations become too big, and then in order to maintain their bigness, a lot of rhetoric has to be created, which eventually turns into mythology, which eventually turns into religion, and we are back in the same soup that we left. लॉजिकली सेज हाय विमो डिड यू वॉच द वीडियो आई गिव टाइम स्टैम्प्स और लॉजिकली मैं गया मैंने सर्च किया पर उस टाइम स्टैम्प पे मुझे वो मिला नहीं 24 समथिंग पे मिला नहीं इफ यू हैव द एक्चुअल टाइम स्टैम्प्स सेंड देम टू मी आई वॉच इट एंड आई लेट यू नो व्हाट आई थिंक मैंने ढूंढा पर मुझे मिला नहीं आई थिंक टाइम स्टैम्प पे कुछ गलती हो गई आपसे Vinod says, if you don't know about a thing, the next step is to find out about the thing. Can't have agnostic behavior. Sure, but if you can't, like if someone makes a claim that you can't know about, right? Like the creation of the universe, the conditions preceding the Big Bang. Try to find out, right? But until you find out, you have to say, I don't know. You can't go from I don't know to I believe this particular claim is correct without any evidence. Until you find out, when you find out, say that I know. But until you find out, you have to necessarily be agnostic about it. That's why agnostic atheism. Kshitij says, did you hear about Hindutva attack on the atheist activist Bairi Naresh today in Hanmakonda town in Telangana? I have to say I hadn't heard about it. I hadn't heard about it. K says, missed these lives. Really enjoy lives where you just take questions and chat. It is more peaceful and fun and often much more enlightening as well. Yeah? Okay. I hadn't done one of these in a long time. People, let me know in the chat if you think these are something we should do every once in a while. Like, I'll be happy to do the face to face talks on Saturdays, and on Wednesdays, I just come and talk like this. Let's see if people agree. Rain asks, what's your thoughts on transhumanism? Dicey topic. Dicey topic because I am not sure I have full faith in the human ability to decide what the course of evolution should be in the future. Natural selection is not a perfect method, but it is a method using which whatever we have right now has come into being. To a certain extent, human beings have already broken the uh, framework that makes natural selection possible. The other day, I was thinking about if arranged marriage was the selecting factor, will human beings actually end up in a good place? Because imagine what happened back before society evolved. Like, males and females were interacting with each other based purely on physical attraction. So, physically stronger children survived in a world which was very different. And eventually, society evolved, and then children who were good in society survived. Like if people cared about you, they took care of you, you survived, as opposed to someone who people did not care about and they died and their genes never got passed on. Now we have marriages where I at least know one person where this extremely dull man is married to an extremely capable woman. Now, if natural selection had been the way of things, this woman would never have married that man. right? But because caste is involved, religion is involved, social structures are involved, patriarchy is involved, this mating happened, right? So we are now in a place where we are selecting mates on the basis of social frameworks as opposed to natural selection. So in a way, that is also transhumanism. Because no, not transhumanism, in a way that is also, that may also be put in the same folder as the principles that transhumanists advocate going forward, that people should decide who to mate with based on factors that are not, uh, you know that are not factors that have traditionally decided the course of evolution. बट ट्रांसह्यूमनिज्म के साथ मेरा प्रॉब्लम ये है कि if we are going to select the abilities that we are going to pass on, if we are going to rule out these things and choose these things as good, how are we to know that the things that we are choosing as good will not become detrimental to the growth of the human civilization, human species in the future, right? Because we can control things to do with ourselves, but we don't really have much control over what happens to the earth. I mean, I would have much more faith in transhumanist futures if human beings exerted more control over the climate of the earth or our position in the cosmos. Right now, a virus can paralyze the entire planet for 2 years. So imagine if we had chosen to be the kind of creatures